The ravine had been hidden under a decade of pine growth, invisible from the highway, unless you knew where to look. When the fire came through in August 2024, burning half of Madison County's hillside, it stripped the trees bare and revealed the outline of a car roof glinting at the bottom. The volunteer crew that spotted it thought it was scrap metal left by old miners. They hiked down after sunrise, moving through smoke and ash. What they found stopped them cold. A gray 2012 Subaru Forester, its windows coated in soot, front end crushed against a boulder. The plates were still readable. MT7H2435, the same plate number listed in a 2014 missing persons report. Mark Ellis, 42, and his daughter Claire, 9. Mark had been a local contractor, the kind who built cabins along the Madison River and fixed snowplows for cash when winters ran long. His wife had died 2 years earlier from cancer. Friends said after that he barely spoke except to Claire, who followed him everywhere, her hair always in a loose braid and her backpack full of sketch pads. On May 12, 2014, Mark picked her up from school early. Security footage showed the two leaving at 3:17 p.m. He told the front office they were driving to Hebgen Lake for the weekend. They never arrived. When the school called the next day and no one answered, deputies searched the road toward the lake. Heavy rain had washed out several shoulders, but no tire marks were visible. For 3 months, they combed canyons and Forest Service roads. Helicopters scanned for metal signatures. Nothing. By winter, the file went cold, labeled unresolved, presumed exposure. 10 years later, lightning struck dry timber above Ennis, Montana, igniting a fire that burned for 6 straight days. As crews cleared containment lines, one firefighter noticed sunlight flashing off something metallic deep in a gully. At first glance, it looked modern, clean edges, intact windows. The car had been preserved under layers of pine needles and clay, hidden from all aerial scans. They radioed command, who relayed the tag number to the county sheriff. 10 minutes later, the line came back, possible match to 2014 missing persons. The site was sealed immediately. When investigators reached the vehicle, they found both front doors locked. The driver's side glass had cracked outward, suggesting internal pressure. Inside were 2 sleeping bags folded neatly, an empty thermos, and a sketchbook wedged between the seats. The pages were dry despite the years. The first drawing showed a mountain ridge and pine silhouettes. The second was darker, swirling lines forming what looked like rain. On the final page, in a child's handwriting, "Dad says the rain sounds different up here. It's not sky rain, it's the ground breathing." Forensics found no remains in the car, no trace of trauma or drag marks nearby, only a single boot print in hardened soil, size 8, leading toward the tree line and stopping abruptly. In the glove compartment lay a digital camera, Canon PowerShot, batteries corroded but memory card intact. The time-stamped photos told a partial story. May 12, 2014, 17:08, Mark posing with Claire by the lake, both smiling. May 12, 1820, darkening sky, rain beginning. May 12, 1903, windshield streaked with mud, dashboard lights glowing red. May 12, 1907, blurred image, camera tilted sideways, branches filling frame. May 12, 1909, black. The final file was an audio clip, the camera's accidental recording during impact. The last 3 seconds captured Mark's voice saying, "Hold on tight, baby." Then static. After the discovery, state troopers reopened the case. Forensic teams rappelled into the ravine. Scanning every meter. 50 yards from the Subaru, beneath a fallen pine, they uncovered a child's boot and a metal thermos engraved CE. DNA on the boot's lining matched Claire Ellis. But again, no skeletal remains. Theories bloomed overnight. Flash flood burial, animal scavenging, even an underground sinkhole. But Soil stability tests showed no collapse zones in that area. It was as if the two had stepped out of the car and vanished into air. At the back of Claire's notebook was a folded page torn from an atlas. In pencil, she had circled a single contour line near Lone Pine Canyon, a narrow gorge 3 miles from the crash site. Beside it, she'd written, "We hear it at night." When search teams entered that canyon, they noticed the same low hum that fire crews had reported earlier, a vibration through the rock like far-off machinery. Geological surveys later confirmed a shallow aquifer under the slope that could produce resonance during rainfall. Still, one of the rangers swore he heard a voice within the echo, calling one softly, "Claire." At the bottom of the canyon, they found a small stone cairn, 7 rocks stacked in a spiral, each marked with a piece of charcoal. Under the top stone lay a single photograph laminated in plastic. Mark and Claire, same as the lake photo, but edited somehow. The background was gone, replaced by a white blur. The plastic wasn't weather-worn. Experts said it couldn't have been there for 10 years, at most a few months. Sheriff Layton said later, "It felt like someone left it to be found." Local news aired the story. Firefighters uncover 2014 missing family car. Social feeds flooded with theories, some claiming they'd seen headlights on that ridge in the early mornings, others insisting they'd heard a child laughing near the canyon trail. One commenter uploaded drone footage from the burn zone. At frame 248, just above the ravine, a faint reflection moved between trees. 2 figures, hand in hand, walking into smoke. The file was flagged as lens flare, but users noticed something else. Both figures cast shadows opposite to the sun. During the official evidence transfer, a lab technician reviewing the camera data noticed a hidden thumbnail not indexed by the original folder. File name, image/000-R. When opened, it showed the car interior illuminated by flash. Mark's arm on the wheel, Claire in the passenger seat, eyes half closed. In the reflection of the rear-view mirror, another set of eyes in the back seat, staring directly into the lens. Timecode, May 12, 2014, 19:10 p.m. 1 minute after the recorded impact. The lab sealed the photo immediately. The Ellis file reopened again, this time classified active review / anomalous find. ... For months, investigators mapped rainfall, acoustic anomalies, even magnetic readings across the canyon. Nothing explained how 2 people, father and daughter, could vanish feet from their vehicle. When reporters asked the sheriff what he believed, he just said, "The fire didn't uncover a mystery. It burned the silence away long enough for us to see it." The second search began 2 weeks after the fire was contained. Smoke still curled from the stumps, and the soil underfoot was soft, warm, almost alive. Investigators moved carefully down the canyon slope where Claire's circled map had pointed. The air smelled of sap and ash. They reached a narrow cleft at the base of the ravine where rainwater had once pooled. The geophones placed there the previous week kept triggering without seismic cause, tiny vibrations every few minutes, as though something beneath was shifting. A ranger named Hollis spotted something glinting in a crack of rock, a fragment of glass lens wrapped in black tape. When he pried it loose, he found the rest of a shattered camera card case, still sealed, edges melted. Inside was a micro SD card, protected by foil. They sent it to the Helena lab. Against all odds, data remained. Only 2 files survived, 1 video, 1 audio. The video ran exactly 22 seconds. The first frame showed the Subaru from a distance, viewed through trees. The second, a quick pan upward, branches shaking, heavy rain falling. Then, Claire's voice, "Dad, we shouldn't be here." Mark replied softly, "We're almost through." The camera jerked as if falling. The final image, before the feed cut, was the inside of the ravine wall itself, smooth, pale, curving inward, as if hollow. The audio file began immediately afterward, 45 seconds of wind, rain, and then a dull rhythmic thump, 4 beats repeating, slowing, until the file stopped. Lab technicians amplified the low frequencies. Beneath the rain, a human voice could be heard counting, quietly, 1, 2, 3, 4, over and over. It matched Mark Ellis's vocal pattern within 98%. He had been counting seconds. Investigators returned to the site with drilling equipment. At 12 feet down, they hit a hollow pocket, an air chamber about 6 feet wide, walled with compacted sand. Inside, they found 2 objects, a crushed camping lantern and a child's sketchbook. The book was half intact, the paper hardened into thin plaster sheets. Forensic conservation thawed it page by page. The last page held an unfinished drawing, 2 stick figures holding hands, standing inside a circle of dots. Beneath it, in Claire's hand, when it rains, it opens again. No remains accompanied the find, but the presence of the lantern and the depth of the cavity suggested they had survived the crash long enough to dig themselves some kind of shelter. The theory formed quickly, Mark trying to protect Claire from the storm, carving out space until the ground gave way. But that didn't explain the photograph left months earlier. Ethan Caldwell, a retired firefighter who'd helped at the scene, returned privately one night to the burn scar. He told reporters later that curiosity got the better of him, that he wanted to see where the figures in the drone footage had walked. He parked at the overlook, hiked down with a flashlight. Half an hour later, his radio picked up faint interference. "Station 1, are you clear?" someone said. The voice sounded like Mark's old recordings from local TV interviews a decade ago. Then silence. When Ethan reached the ravine floor, his light caught a shimmer near the boulder where the Subaru had lodged. Wedged between rocks was a cell phone, screen shattered but casing intact. Model dated 2014. When charged at the sheriff's office the next morning, the phone displayed one photo in its gallery, taken automatically when powered. It showed a reflection of the ceiling lights, but beneath it, faintly visible, the outline of 2 faces close together, one adult, one child, both pale against darkness. The metadata timestamp, August 22nd, 2024, the same night Ethan had entered the ravine. He stopped talking to the press after that, back in Helena. Technicians reviewed every signal log from the search drones. On the night of the storm, 4 of 6 drones had recorded short bursts of infrared heat near the canyon floor, shaped roughly like human silhouettes. The pattern repeated twice more over the next 2 days, always at night, always within a 10-meter radius of the burned car. The sheriff refused to speculate publicly. In private, he told the team, maybe the fire didn't uncover them, it woke them. By early winter, snow covered the burn zone. Rangers pulled the equipment out, sealed the pit, and filed the last report. Partial personal effects recovered. No biological remains. Yet even after the snow fell, hikers passing along the new service road claimed to see a faint light in the ravine below. Steady, white, the size of a lantern. One described it perfectly. It flickers like someone counting time. In April 2025, melting snow loosened soil around the wreck again. Maintenance crews discovered that the Subaru's trunk latch had popped during the thaw. Inside, beneath the emergency blanket, lay a waterproof envelope marked, "For whoever finds us." Inside were 2 letters, one in Mark's handwriting, one in Claire's. Mark's note read, "If we don't make it, we tried. She drew maps, I built the fire. The rain's coming through the rocks now. Tell whoever reads this, we heard the sirens, we waited. Maybe we're just too far down." Claire's note beneath it, in pencil. "Dad says, the mountain remembers names. If you listen, you can hear yours." Both papers were perfectly dry. The letters closed the case for good. DNA confirmed the notes were authentic. The Ellis family was listed as recovered, presumed fatal. But the firefighters who first found the Subaru still drive past the site sometimes. They say that when it rains, water never collects in that ravine. It runs straight through the ground, vanishing into rock with a sound like slow, even breathing. One of them, Hollis, keeps the sketchbook on his shelf. When storms pass over his cabin, the pages curl slightly, as if from heat, and the charcoal drawing on the last page darkens just enough to show a third figure drawn faintly behind the others, taller, reaching out with one hand. He doesn't look at it after dark. By the time spring came, the snowmelt had turned the slopes above Ennis into rivers of mud. The ravine, cleared of debris months earlier, looked almost peaceful from the highway, just a dark seam cut through green hills. But down below, something had changed. The runoff had carved open a new side tunnel about 20 feet from where the Subaru still rested. 2 state geologists arrived first, tasked with checking soil stability before resealing the site. One of them lowered a light into the fresh opening. The beam caught something that didn't belong, the corner of a metal box wedged in clay. They pulled it free with a rope. It was an ammunition case, waterproofed with wax and string. Inside were a few personal items, 2 charred photographs, a pocket knife, a toy compass, and a voice recorder sealed in plastic. The photos were too damaged to make out clearly, but one seemed to show a hand-drawn map of the ravine. The recorder was dated May 13, 2014, the day after Mark and Claire disappeared. When technicians played it, the speaker's voice was faint but steady. It was Mark. "If anyone finds this, we're below the road. The car held for the night. She's resting. I'm going to try the light again when the rain stops. There's a sound under us, like water, but it isn't water. It moves when I talk. I think it's hollow." A click, then another line. "If you hear this, don't come down. The air changes when you breathe too hard. It's like the ground takes it back." The tape ended mid-sentence. When investigators returned to the tunnel with better lighting, they realized the clay wall wasn't solid rock at all, but packed silt that pulsed slightly when touched. A small cavity behind it resonated when they spoke. It was the same vibration that earlier teams had mistaken for groundwater. They drilled a narrow vent to measure airflow. What came out wasn't moisture. It was warm air, carrying a faint odor of smoke and pine. The sensors read a steady exhalation every 7 seconds, like a giant lung. The team called it the breathing pocket. Word spread quickly. Locals drove out at dusk to stand by the fence and listen. Some heard nothing. Others claimed they could make out words in the rhythm, like a whisper, repeating names. A few said they heard a child laugh once, carried by the wind. The sheriff shut the area down after tourists began leaving candles near the barrier. But the phenomenon continued, always during rainfall, always the same 7-second pulse. That summer, a wildfire memorial was held for the victims of the 2024 blaze. During the ceremony, Hollis, the firefighter who had found the camera card, brought a small metal box to the podium. Inside was the compass from the ammunition case. He told the crowd, "Sometimes the mountain keeps what it needs. Sometimes it gives a piece back." He opened the compass to show that the needle still moved, but instead of pointing north, it spun slowly, counterclockwise, and stopped facing the mountainside where the car remained. A few weeks later, heavy rain hit the valley again. By morning, the ravine had collapsed completely. The Subaru, the tunnels, the breathing pocket, everything gone beneath fresh earth. 6 months passed. Then, during road repairs, a worker grading the shoulder unearthed a single license plate half buried in silt. MT7H 2435. It was perfectly clean, no rust. On the back, someone had scratched with a key. "Hold on tight." They mounted it on the memorial sign near the overlook. Visitors still stopped to read it, to look down at where the slope once opened. On calm days, when there's no wind, a low rhythmic pulse can still be felt through the ground. 7 beats apart, faint but even. Locals call it the Ellis Echo. Some say it's water finding a new path through the hill. Others think it's the engine cooling forever under the clay. But those who knew Mark and Claire believe it's something else, a heartbeat, keeping time for two travelers who never made it home. When the rain comes to Montana, the forest holds its breath, and for a few moments, the whole canyon hums like it's remembering. And if you listen long enough, past the thunder and the runoff, you can almost hear the last thing Mark said on the tape. Soft, calm, certain. Hold on tight, baby. Then the sound fades, and the mountain exhales.